Mike Flynn, head of the National Security Council, God help us all, in a world of trouble. He has been communicating with the Russians. Now, we knew already before he got in office that he was paid by the Kremlin to speak at a gala event in December of 2015. We know that he regularly communicated with the Russian ambassador to the U.S., so he sat next to Vladimir Putin at that gala, and they seemed like best of friends. Well, he got paid to be, so I guess that makes sense. What we didn't know until very recently was, turns out that Flynn was communicating with the Russian ambassador. So the day that Obama, when he was president, put sanctions on Russia, Mike Flynn, who was set to be National Security Council head, called the Russian ambassador not once, not twice, not three, not four. He called him 5 times. Jesus, who is this guy working for? Okay, Wall Street Journal reports. Mr. Flynn initially said that in a conversation December 29th with the Russian ambassador Sergey Kislyak, he didn't discuss sanctions imposed that day by the outgoing Obama administration, which were levied in retaliation for alleged Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. Mr. Flynn now concedes that he did. Administration officials said after transcripts of his phone calls show as much. So let's pause there to go over how stupid this guy is. All right, so he's so brazen that he's going to call a Russian ambassador and say, hey, it's okay. Don't worry, Trump's got your back. He's going to call him 5 times. And this knucklehead doesn't realize we might be tapping the phone of the Russian ambassador. You're going to be the head of the National Security Council and you didn't think that through? These guys are painfully stupid. They don't even do corruption well. Now, so he lied about it and he got caught because we have the transcripts. Yeah, we were tapping the guy's phone. He's the Russian ambassador. Okay. He also admits that he spoke with the ambassador more than once on December 29th, despite weeks of the Trump teams insisting it was just one phone call, officials said. Oops. Now, Wall Street Journal further explains if Mr. Flynn had promised any easing of sanctions once Mr. Trump took office, he may have violated a law that prohibits private citizens from engaging in foreign policy, legal experts have said. So chalk up another legal violation to the Trump team, because obviously on December 29th, they had not taken office yet, and he was a private citizen. The transcripts of the conversations don't show Mr. Flynn made any sort of promise to lift the sanctions once Mr. Trump took office, the officials said. Rather, they show Mr. Flynn making more general comments about relations between the two countries improving under Mr. Trump, people familiar with them said. By the way, it is true that in the National Security Council and in the government, there are people who are not big fans of Mike Flynn or Donald Trump or what they've done to our government. So that is why all of a sudden you're getting all these leaks. But what happened in those phone calls is true. The leaks are accurate. And now even Mike Flynn has acknowledged that they are accurate and that he was lying about them all throughout. Okay, we're going to give him a tiny bit of credit here because in the 5 calls, he didn't at least say, oh, yes, sir, I work for you, sir. I will immediately lift the sanctions, sir. Instead, he said, don't worry. When the Trump administration comes in, we will be much more favorable to the Russians. So that's as savvy as a Trump person gets. Okay, now they explain that the White House is reviewing whether to retain the National Security Advisor, Mike Flynn, amid a furor of his contacts with Russian officials before President Donald Trump took office, an administration official said on Sunday. So he's apparently on the chopping block. And they say administration officials promised that he has, quote, apologized to everyone, because he told, for example, the Vice President Mike Pence that he had not done these calls. He lied to Mike Pence. Mike Pence said it in public, and apparently Pence is super pissed about that. And even Trump said he would, quote, look into the disclosures. So, SpaghettiOs. Now, you know that the knives are out because Chris Christie, who can't wait to get into the administration, sees an opening. So he goes on TV with fake concern. Watch.
If General Flynn did tell the Russian ambassador something along the lines of, don't worry about these sanctions President Obama is imposing, we're going to revisit them later, would that trouble you?
Well, listen, I don't think that you can have any more than one president at a time. And, General Flynn has said up to this point that he had not said anything like that to the Russian ambassador. I think now he's saying that he doesn't remember whether he did or not. So that's a conversation he's going to need to have with the president and the vice president. But I've always been a person who believed that you have one president at a time, and that's the way things should be done.
If General Flynn lied to the vice president, what should the consequences be?
Well, that would be up to the vice president and the president. And so I'm sure that there'll be conversations between the vice president, the president, and General Flynn to make sure that everybody gets the accurate story on this matter. And then they'll act as they see fit, given all the circumstances.
Why is Chris Christie even on TV? You know why? He's like, hey, Mike, come here for a second. Under a bus you go. Okay. Chris Christie's there to throw him under a bus. And he says things like, there's only one president at a time. Really? That had to be stated, let alone stated twice? Did anybody think there's two presidents at a time? No, in other words, he's saying, Trump, are you going to do something about this, or are you going to let them undermine your authority? Come on, Donald. You're a man, aren't you? You're the only president, right? Somebody's not pulling your strings, right, Donald? You're going to let Mike Flynn get away with this? No, better to fire him and put me in there. Oh, did I say that? I'm not saying anything. Yeah, Chris, I wonder why you're on TV. I can't quite tell. And finally, an official has said that on Mike Flynn, quote, the knives are out. There's a lot of unhappiness about this. This is just the beginning. There will be many knives and many infighting stories from the Trump administration because Trump is not really in charge. So people are constantly vying to be the decision maker. And Trump lets him get away with it because he's a child who doesn't like to do his homework. So he hands off policy to the last guy he spoke to. So this is just the beginning. Flynn might go out soon, but there'll be a lot more where this came from. Are you sick of the mainstream media? Then I got good news for you. We're going to hire some investigative reporters and we're going to go house. We're actually going to investigate what's happening in this country and stand up for you guys. Help us do it. Go to tytnetwork.com/go. If everybody watching this video just gives a little bit of money, we'd have plenty to hire those investigative teams and unleash them on the country.